Hello. Welcome to my alternate reality. I wanted to tell you a story today from my so-called past. A story I can't believe that I never told you, but it was brought to mind by a recent event in my life. There was a fire nearby in a holistic center where I had 15 of my paintings hung. And 15 of my paintings no longer exist. They got burned up in a fire. And curiously, I felt an odd sense of release. It surprised me. In retrospect, it doesn't surprise me, because every painting I have is something that has to be accounted for, in a sense. I am a professional artist, so these things are inventoried, and I have to keep track of them, and I have to know what's at what gallery, and so on and so forth. So I was 15 paintings lighter after that fire. And while it was disappointing, briefly, it was only briefly disappointing. And it caused me to remember an intentional fire that I made one day. During the early days of my healing, shortly after I was having memories start to trigger other memories and trigger other memories as my subconscious mind woke up and revealed itself. And in order to let go of some of these things, I painted them out. It was as though here were these memories locked inside me, and I had to get them out and realize them, see visually. I'm a very visual person. I don't know if everybody needs to do this, but I needed to see again what I was feeling. So these were not nice pictures. They just weren't. They were small. They were done with a very liquid medium. I was using a kind of a gouache paint, which is very fluid, on cardboard, so they were ultimately very disposable. They were meant to be. And I created a number of them. I would say 15 to 20. And at some point, I realized that they had served their purpose, because we do tend to hold on a bit. Even to the bad stuff, we tend to hold on a bit. And at some point, these creations of mine, the results of the process of disgorging myself of information I wished I didn't have, and yet I was holding on to them. Time for a fire, I thought. And I knew a person who had one of these outdoor fireplaces, very nicely constructed, probably a concrete sort of thing. And it was behind a house that she had recently purchased. So she hadn't used it yet, but she knew it was out there. And I asked her if I could make use of the space for healing purposes, and she said yes. And so I carted all my things off to her backyard at the waning of the moon, the last quarter, probably as close to the new moon as I could have gotten, because that's the best time for letting things go, when the moon is waning and taking energy away. Time to weed the garden. So I took these things back to her fireplace and discovered that, in fact, nobody had been using the fireplace for quite some time. And it was full of leaves and garbage and all kinds of stuff. It was quite a mess. So I had to set about cleaning the fireplace in order to do my ceremony. And of course it was lucky that it was dry weather and everything was dry and easily swept away. And I got rid of what I needed to get rid of, kept some of the broken twigs and stuff for kindling, and made myself a nice little fire on which to burn these paintings. I took a moment, got myself settled, and lit the fire consciously, knowing that I was releasing back to wherever, out to wherever, these energies. That I was consciously distancing myself from these things. And just as they were starting to curl up on themselves, the way that cardboard will do, especially if it's got paint on one side, and it was very beautiful and curling and little licks of fire, and all of a sudden, a little mouse ran out from under the edge of the fire, one of the sides, this side, whatever that is, left or right, and came zipping out. And I was so stunned, not just because there was a living mouse that I'd probably almost set fire to, but because as a child, from the time I was born, my nickname was Mouse. And so as the fire burned, the mouse was set free. I was very impressed by the universe that day. And in retrospect, I remain impressed. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. If you are open, wonderful, amazing things can happen to you. Things that just thrill you. And it doesn't matter if they thrill anybody else. It doesn't matter if nobody else understands. If it means something to you, it's valuable in that moment. It's very valuable. It's like a universal validation of what you are doing. I wish those kinds of things for you on your journey. Just stay open. Do what feels right. And your life can become a marvelous, marvelous thing. I love you. Take care.